Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. And we've got a good chunk of this week's roundup already taken care of. On to our last video, the miscellaneous Marvel books and this week's DC titles. Starting off with Guardians of the Galaxy number 12. Where we left off, the Dark Olympians were back. And Star-Lord, Nova picked an old battle site from the Annihilation War to be the site of their battle against the Dark Olympians. As the rest of the guard, and they set up most of the Guardians on the planet to take on the Dark Olympians, with Groot, Novar, Rocket, and Hercules coming in the Bowie. As it came near, however, Zeus destroyed the Bowie, seemingly with all hands. So the issue begins on Daedalus 5. The battle has begun in earnest. Turns out that on the Bowie, and the remains of the Bowie at least, Novar had a programmable micro-reality, which is roughly 8 feet across, on him, and managed to save Hercules himself and Rocket. As it's programmable, well, various things can be various things like momentum can be programmed. And Hercules has Novar basically programmed the momentum to turn him into a bullet. And and the Lion of Olympus charges his father. Back on the ground, Rocket retrieves the charred head of Groot. Moondragon is dealing with which god? One of the Olympians. I don't know which one, but Rocket finds the Prince of Power, who got about 10 seconds into the battle got slammed into the ground. Turns out he swallowed the Power Stone. He swallowed a Power Stone, or the Power Stone. You know, the Infinity Stone of power. Also, we learn the Prince of Power's true name. Prince Other One of Noblor. But Rocket entrusts the Prince of Power with Groot's head and based on the Think Purple thoughts. And then get ready to run. So Groot is reborn, though once again only capable of speaking 3 words. I am Groot. Athena's monitoring the battle. Though not a seemingly impartial manner. But Moondragon appears nearly beaten until Phyla basically accepts the merged Moondragon. At least, kind of a hey, I didn't give you the chance to let the new you get to know me, and for that I apologize. That was wrong of me. And then Phyla tells Heather to show her the dragon. And the Dragon of the Moon is released. And traps God of Language in a mine and Moondragon then traps the God of Language in a mind he can't escape. Groots. But Hercules beat and Zeus continue their battle. The Guardians then regroup and come upon them, and with a black hole bullet, combining the forces, combining the Master of the Sun, the Dragon of the Moon, into a black hole bullet, which then fires through a Utopian Kree liquid weapon. Then hits Zeus and sends him elsewhere as he's held in place and dragged elsewhere by Athena. As the dust settles, it's revealed that they have company. The Kree Skrull fleet with Ambassador Super Skrull at its forefront. Basically, the Guardians are being disbanded. Various things are brought up, like between the Snark War, the collapse of the galactic economy, and so forth. The Guardians can't be allowed to continue to operate the way they do. We fast forward to three months later. The Guardians now operate out of a new base and are called into action. And we're seeing already a couple new members. Most of them also have new uniforms. But that is where the issue ends. And yes, the last few issues have had across the top of banner saying "Countdown to Liftoff" or "Liftoff in." And yes, this is Liftoff in 1. Well, Liftoff is next issue. And that covers Guardians of the Galaxy. Which brings us to Taskmaster number 5. Where we left off, Taskmaster had managed to get the kinetic signatures of Okoye, Phil Coulson, and Amy Han of South Korea's NIS Tiger Division. All in hopes to unlock the Rubicon trigger, which Maria Hill was looking into before her untimely death, seemingly at the hands of Taskmaster, though he was framed. Taskmaster has also been trying to avoid Black Widow, who is trying to kill him for killing Maria Hill. But he's starting to wonder. He's starting to get the idea that this is all somebody else's plan. Not his, not Fury's, not even Widow's. But whose? And he begins to bring this up to Fury. And basically brings up that, and he says to, and Taskmaster just basically counters something that Fury said a while back in the series, that Maria Hill made him Nick Fury. He says what turned Marcus Johnson, Army Ranger, into Nick Fury Jr. Super Spy was when he went to his late mother's house and met an honest to God supervillain for the very first time. That honest to God supervillain was Taskmaster. After saying all this, however, the car hits an IED because, well, Taskmaster has kind of lost track of it, wasn't paying attention to say, hey, Black Widow's nearby. But, yeah, she's planning on killing him. And now she's got him. However, she also tells him it's a shield truck. So, Taskmaster engages the ejection seat and explains that as he runs, he explains the big difference between him and everyone else at his level. Cowardice. He's one of the only people at his level in the game who knows when to cut and run. And yeah, he can outfight almost anyone, which gives him the edge over on people outside of his weight class. Mainly, guys with superpowers. They have all that power but don't know how to fight. They just let their super strength or laser eyes do all the work for them. But Black Widow is different. Explaining she is the end product of Department X, the Red Room, half-century-long project about a superhuman assassin capable of killing Captain America. She was built strong and fast, and she knows how to fight. And unlike Han or Okoye or even Hyperion, Widow wants to kill him. He's got no prep, no plans, no dirty little tricks up his sleeve. And there's the fact that he's not entirely sure she can die. During Secret Empire, after all, he saw Captain America snap Black Widow's neck. And there she is, ready to beat him to death. They duke it out. He basically has to switch it, use every fighting style he can. Daredevil, Batroc, Iron Fist, Shang-Chi. But he's starting to think just who profits from unlocking the Rubicon trigger, putting everyone in all the pieces on the board at those exact spots. Meanwhile, Fury is rescued by someone he's not too happy to see. Maria Hill, alive and well. Which is actually something that Taskmaster figured out, is that Maria Hill's alive and just wants the Rubicon trigger opened. And how better to do it than to get Taskmaster to, unlock the signatures so that, for whatever reason, they can utilize it. But it's explained, what the Rubicon trigger is explained. It's a hammer project from the bad old days. Doomsday weapon. Literal hammer that Osborn could have held over the world to secure power. A hammer he could have used to crack the world open like a skull. But the Siege of Asgard happened, and before he could activate it, he lost. Normally that'd be that. He'll explain with the trigger wasn't easy to get rid of. Stealth Death Spore satellites, a necklace of death hung around the world, which were impossible to find. So the Taskmaster lays it out so the good guys couldn't find the weapon, but Hill had access to the system interface. And it's only the best they could do is lock it with the signatures, so that no one would be able to use it. Almost no one. Fury asks how she faked her death, but she states that that's unimportant. Well, But apparently, after Norman Osborn has had a change of heart over an Amazing Spider-Man. And she was able to get kill codes for the Rubicon trigger from him. But she needed the kinetic signatures, and she's a super spy that no one trusts. So it's not like she can just call up Coulson, Okoye, and Han and say, "Hey, you guys want to come over, have a few drinks? Maybe maybe provide your kinetic signatures so I can disable a Doomsday weapon." I mean, honestly, I'm sure she tried it. At least, they kind of, sure, why not? No, I mean, she's a super spy nobody trusts. So yeah, no, they're not going to just show up at her door and be like, yeah, okay, drinks and a kinetic signature. So, Taskmaster does his thing, and then activates the Rubicon trigger. Because he doesn't appreciate the fact that he was basically Maria Hill's chump in all this. So, and he then leaves. While they figuring that, what, the good guys, they can fix this now. The series ends with Taskmaster by saying, need a bastard? Call Taskmaster. Seriously, one of my favorite minis of the year. Moving on to our final Marvel book of the week, Maestro Warren Pax, number 3. Where we left off, Hulk's old allies, the Pantheon, had captured him with help from their new ally, Dr. Doom, and had actually seemingly knocked him unconscious. In their headquarters, they've got him in stasis, And the question is asked, what now? What now is that Pantheon member Paris is going to, after some convincing, is going to try and get Banner, Maestro to revert back to Banner. We also learned that the Pantheon has apparently been watching Banner for quite some time, much longer than when his various identities merged. They knew about what his father had done. They were in fact keeping an eye on his father. And so Maestro manages to break out, fight the various members of Pantheon, gets his hand cut up by Ulysses, who upgraded his energy sword. Though Hulk's able to just kind of pick up the hand and reattach it. He also gets Ulysses to kill Hector for him, and kills Ulysses himself. When he goes up against Atalanta, Ajax tries to stop him, and so two birds, one stone. He throws Ajax in his body armor at Atalanta, squishing her. And then Bruce's mother shows up, alive and well, and promptly shoots Banner. Turns out it was all a ruse. It was all happening in his head, except for the being shot part. And so Ulysses asks, okay, they've killed Banner. Now what? To which Atalanta says simply, now we make it permanent. That is where the issue ends. Which brings us to the distinguished competition, starting with Detective Comics number 1034. Now, this is, I think maybe I covered the 1027 a little after it dropped. But basically, reboot time. So, Joker War is a thing that happened. Bruce is in as rich as he once was. The issue begins in the City Hall district. There's a mayoral fundraiser going on. Apparently, Huntress is watching, and Bruce Wayne is in attendance. The mayor is talking about his vision for Gotham. When the place is attacked by a gang called the Party Crashers. Most of their remnants from the Joker War. They seem to be well funded though. They've actually got armor, like armor, not like Iron Man armor or nothing, but still kind of stuff that you're gonna need a bit more oomph to get through. The mayor is escorted out. Bruce, of course, makes his own escape. Comes back in, takes out the Party Crashers, and explains this is their usual kind of gig. His guess is that this is actually somebody else's plan, a test for the Party Crashers, or for him. We also learned that one of his new plans for addressing the need for increased security in Gotham is access points. A series of micro-bat caves placed throughout the city's underground. Now he no longer has a helipad and a massive subterranean garage that fits 20 bat vehicles. He's had to diversify. Do-it-yourself cave. And since his access to the Wayne fortune is limited, he's been digging for 3 days within Gotham's underground. And he also truly realized that, he's never actually worked a day in his life before now. But apparently, his satellite cave is 20 feet below and 6 blocks away from what is now home. And explaining that living at the heart of the city has positives and negatives. But Bruce is invited to a get together of a neighborhood get together. Meet the neighbors kind of thing. We've got the invite is delivered by Lydia Warren, daughter of Brian Warren III, studying art history, runs communications for her father's company. Doesn't go to black tie dinners unless they're vegan, so not a lot of dinners. Then we got Sarah Worth, the daughter of the man who built most of Lower Gotham. 4 Degrees runs a tech company that speeds data transfer. Her husband Sam runs a tech company that speeds up data transfer. Third startup in as many years. Next up is Deb Donovan, who would say she's the last decent reporter in Gotham. Bruce would agree. And he's also pretty sure that she hates him. But, so, it's basically kind of explaining, that Gotham's wealthy elite doesn't really view the crime problem in Gotham as a tangible thing. It's one of those things you hear about. It doesn't affect them. It never does. Sure, maybe at least this group of wealthier elites in Gotham. The mayor is feeling thoroughly embarrassed about what happened at the gala, and wants his people to put together something for him to say to the press within an hour. So the next day, within an hour. And then elsewhere, back in the Fort Gray district of Gotham, there's an attack on one of Bruce's neighbors. Sarah Worth, I believe. Yes, the Worths. The attack is primarily on Sarah. Also, Batman does take down the party crashers who stole phones and have been trying to break into them. It was fairly clearly on basically to see if they were worth being investing in. But Sam, Sarah's husband, is freaking out about her disappearance. And in the sewers, there's a man with blood covering his forearms walking through. Then we get, this is where that's where it is. We get a continuation of Batman 106's Robin story, which ended with seemingly with Talia al Ghul in the clutches of a member of the League of Lazarus, and seemingly being killed by said member in front of her son Damian. Turns out, no, Talia killed a member of the League. Damian explains he was distracted by the tattoos they had. It's not a language he knows. So the League of Lazarus is explained. Apparently, the Demon's Head Empire had 3 classes: the Leagues of Shadows, Assassins, and Lazarus. The League of Lazarus rebelled early within the reign of Ra's al Ghul. But apparently the visit to Talia from the League of Lazarus was to be a message, but she has no interest in the League of Lazarus or their tournament. It takes a while for the word tournament to really click with Damian, but yeah, it does. And but Talia, as they leave, Talia tells Damian that now that Leviathan was stolen from her in the recent story event Leviathan, the Al Ghul family has lost control over the League of Shadows and Leagues of Shadows and Assassins. Ra's al Ghul has fallen from grace, and there are much larger things going on in the world. she's now a part of which demand her attention. She has to rebuild the Empire. It's her priority, so it must be Damien's as well. She informs Damien that he'll assist her, but she will not treat him as her son. He will be treated as any other assassin in her employ, a weapon in her hands. If he does well, he may finally live up to the expectations she had for him. So she tells me he has to choose which life to lead, the demon or the detective. And he leaves behind some of the trappings of his current costume and jumps out of the helicopter. And Talia watches as she should have known better than to cage him, and says not to let him down, not to let her down. But there's a strange mark that's appeared on one of them. I think on Talia. And so the League of Shadows is discussing the return of the League of Lazarus. There are various fighters being shown. But the League of Shadows is watching it. One of their own, their chosen champion, go training. And wondering, what if Damien enters the tournament? And someone trained by the Bat. But it's stated that if Damien does, he'll face their fighter. A recently discovered secret weapon who will not hesitate with a kill shot. And what better way to take out a Robin than with a Hawk? Connor Hawk. And this is setting up the upcoming Robin series, which begins next month. Okay. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next title, Harley Quinn, #1. So, in the aftermath of Joker War and her tenure with the Suicide Squad and whatnot, Harley Quinn, with an expunged record, is looking to make amends, trying to be a good guy. She got a place at Little Santa Prisa. She's trying to do good. So the issue begins. She's apparently made a cake for Killer Croc to apologize. But yeah, Croc's not that happy to see her, so she's not feeling too apologetic. Also, it does turn out that Killer Croc is gluten intolerant. But yeah. So she smacks around Croc and then leaves the sewers. Ambushed by a few Gothamites who are understandably not too fond of clowns. Makes her way home, but she notices that there's an open window now, and she knows she didn't leave it open. Waiting inside is none other than Batman. And she explains what she's doing. She's, trying to make amends. But she's not ready to try and make amends yet with Ivy. And finally, Harley broaches the question that was initially brought up in Batman 106. What about the money? She figures, obviously, the Batman members get paid, right? Don't tell me that Robin and Batgirl aren't compensated. She's going to need money to furnish her digital place. New countertops, granite, maybe even marble countertops. Definitely a novelty Batman toaster. Literally puts the bat symbol on toast. Bat toast. But Batman gets a call from Oracle. Someone's going down to the amusement mile. Harley tells him that she'll be She'll meet him there. Yeah, at Funland, there's a bit of a fight going on. Some former clowns with against some people who aren't too happy about clowns. Batman shows up and basically turns everyone's ire towards him. Yeah, that it ends as well as you might think. One of the former clowns runs into the funhouse and encounters Harley and Batman. And she kind of says, "Hey, let me try to help this guy." But she did help this former clown also redeem himself. And when she returns home to her apartment, however, it does turn out that, well, someone, I'm presuming someone with a bat motif costume, and including a cow with pointy ears, has left a bat toaster in her apartment for her. Elsewhere in the Rockwood Hospital was criminally insane. Sane Industries is very clearly made a case for the release of a patient. None other than Dr. Hugo Strange. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final book of the week. Batman Black and White, number 4. We got a quartet of tales here. We've got A Night in the Life of a Bat in Gotham by Joshua Williamson and Riley Rossmo. Davenport House by Carl Kerschel. The Green Deal by Chip Zdarsky and Nick Bradshaw. Checkmate by Daniel Warren Johnson. And The Fool's Journey by Becky Cloonan and Rachel and Terry Dodson. Or Terry and Rachel Dodson. So, Night in the Life of a Bat in Gotham. There's a bat in Gotham flying about. Got loose from a scene. Batman's investigating the scene of one of Riddler's attacks, which includes a bird cage with a dead bat inside it. Not the same bat, but the bat that's falling around gets captured. Then Batman. It turns out it's by a group of black marketers who mostly deal in villain memorabilia. But with a bat, oh, that's something they can do. That's something they can make some decent cash off of. Batman shows up, smacks him around, and frees the bat. Back in the cave, he comes home, lets the bat free, explains that he thinks of all the bats that live in the cave as not as pets, but as family. And he also states that every bat in Gotham City has a story to tell. Next, we've got Davenport House. I'm not sure who's in the Robin outfit here, but it's a young girl. But apparently, there are noises being uttered from Davenport House, one of the few houses in the Hawks Hill district that hasn't been rebuilt. It's still owned by the family's great grandchildren, but they don't live in it because it's supposedly haunted. You see what it seems to be a ghost. Batman goes to touch it and vanishes briefly, apparently having been called forth in a seance. And Lady Davenport immediately mistakes Batman for being the spirit of Gotham and asks where her missing daughter is. Or wants to know her missing granddaughter, Dolly Davenport. Turns out it was Kay's husband who killed her. The circle is, and so Graham Davenport kills his wife and then himself, and Batman has returned to the present. And he finds where the bullet went through the wall and cuts through the wall, but we don't see what it is he finds. Which brings us to the Green Deal. Poison Ivy has dug up the bodies of Thomas and Martha Wayne in an effort to call out Bruce Wayne. And so Batman shows up explaining that Mr. Wayne is out of town. But she's gone too far by digging up his parents. But she basically explains, but she needs, the help of Wayne Industry, basically the Wayne fortune, in a way to help, in a plan to potentially save the world. Lays out her plan, a super plant that produces incredible amounts of oxygen. It's nearly impossible to destroy. And so she could, if Bruce Wayne were to help her, well, Ivy could stop her war on mankind, and she could help Batman going up against corporate polluters, villains who look to harm the planet and people. However, Batman points out that one, people will continue to burn and cut the plants, and the plants would retaliate. Also, she's, the plants she's bringing, that she brought with her, are designed for mind control, torture, so on and so forth. And so he defeats Ivy, and then she asks, "What about the world? I'm giving you a plan to save the world." And he simply asks, "What makes her think he doesn't already have one?" Which brings us to Checkmate, which opens with Batman having been captured by some of Two-Face's goons. Two-Face is brought to where they're holding him, and explains that, he says, "You guys brought him down? You realize he only gets captured if he wants to be captured, right?" Which then leads to a flashback of Alfred teaching Bruce how to play chess over the years. And then cuts to the present where Bruce frees himself, takes down Two-Face and his goons, arrives home and finds a chessboard set up with a note saying "Checkmate, A." Which brings us to our final tale, The Fool's Journey. From the early days of Batman, from Batman's early days, they're at the Haley and Norton Bros Circus in the tent of Madame Fortuna, where Madame Fortuna is dead, with a handful of tarot cards around her. Gordon has called in Batman to consult. Batman's not entirely sure she was murdered. There's no sign of struggle. Nothing's missing. The only sign is the knife in her chest. But Gordon agrees, but it still seems weird, so maybe it is more Batman's territory. So Batman investigates, going by the drawn tarot cards. First, the Fool. And so Batman talks to one of the clowns, who explains to her that the strong man, Samson, was her lover. Well, apparently, and had broken up with her. Well, Samson's not Samson hasn't gotten over the breakup entirely. He wants to know why. Next, the lovers. The Fool, then Strength, then the lovers. Lovers being the Flying Graysons. During his interview with the strongman, the strongman tore a poster of the Flying Graysons, and so all the more reason to ask. Turns out that the strongman was incredibly jealous, even of other men just talking to Lady Fortuna, such as Mr. Grayson, whose infant child was watching as his parents practice. Finally, Mr. Haley, the ringmaster, the Emperor. As he had an argument with Fortuna. Well, she advised him against against his new business partner, Mr. Zuko, and so he fired her for her own safety. And so Batman explains to Gordon that Fortuna did stab herself. Batman explains that she left a blood stain on each card, covering a single letter, or in the case of the Two of Swords, a shape. Rearranged, the letter spelled one word. Sorry. But Batman said he wanted to get the full picture, or the full story. Basically, she was in a toxic relationship and had just lost her job. She felt alone. So, and that is where the issue ends. And that's it for this week's roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.